Welcome to the Show Day podcast for July 1st, 2019. It is just that, the first day of July of 2019, and that means we start the heart of the 2019 DCI Summer Tour today. July, almost every day of the month, there is a show across either DCI or DCA, and really that means that we are bound for a very fun month ahead, and then that leads into August and DCI World Championships. Besides that, last night we had a show in California, we had a show in Minnesota. Big things came out of those shows. I'm really looking forward to talking about a lot of them today, especially the stuff that happened in California, because guess what? Santa Clara Vanguard will not go undefeated in the 2019 tour. That plus more today on the Show Day podcast. So, as I said, one show in Minnesota, one show in California. Show in Minnesota was River City Rhapsody in Rochester, Minnesota. Show's hosted by the Blue Stars each year. It's one of a series of events in the River City Rhapsody series. So, in open class, Colt Cadets, only open class corps attending, they finish off with a 47.75. They go up just a couple of tenths from the night before in Rockford, so not a ton to talk about with them, and really a common theme you'll see going through all of the corps that performed last night. Not a lot of movers. There are some corps who maybe went up a point or two, maybe went down a few tenths, but not a ton of movement. And actually, we did not see, other than the big upset in California that we haven't been expecting yet this season, we did not see a ton of movement in rankings last evening. On the world class side of things, in Rochester, general effect, that went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but the big battle we're going to watch here is Spirit versus Phantom. Spirit third with a 28.9, Phantom fourth with a 28.2. That is a big margin for Phantom to make up later on. That's 7 tenths. Phantom's big weakness is general effect. If they could figure out general effect, they are good to go. Visual proficiency, Spirit at a 14.4, Phantom at a 14 even. Visual analysis goes to Phantom over Spirit by 2 tenths. And then over in Color Guard, Phantom's third. They really turned things around in Color Guard. They were struggling there. They've now turned things around their last 2 shows. Third at this one with a 14 even, Spirit at a 13.7, and actually Madison getting past Spirit as well. Overall visual, Spirit versus Phantom, Phantom at a 21.4, Spirit at a 21.35. So still Spirit is winning this show by a pretty big margin. When you move over to music, this gets interesting here. Brass, Spirit up by a 10th over Phantom, Spirit up by a 10th over Phantom in analysis, and then over in percussion, this is just odd. And percussion scores are always kind of odd, and they're doing the same thing this year. Who wins percussion, you might ask at this one? Phantom Regiment. They had not won anything at any show yet this season. Yes, they were with championship contenders at each and every show. But still. First with a 15 even, and that is a point better than Spirit score in percussion. Now, yes, you have to add these scores together and divide by 2, so you have to add all 3 of these scores and then divide by 2 for overall music, but still, a point gap over Spirit in percussion is a big margin. What else happened to percussion, you ask? Phantom wins 15 even, second place, Blue Stars a 14.9. Third was the Colts at a 14.5. Fourth place, 14 even for Spirit. That's a point back, as I said. Fifth place, 13.8 for the Crossmen. Again, just struggling in percussion. And then sixth place, 13.7 for the Madison Scouts. So, overall final scores, 14.95 for the Blue Stars, 73.35 for the Crossmen, 71.55 for Spirit, and Phantom came within 2.5 tenths of them last night, 71-3, due to mainly that percussion score of them winning. 68-75 for the Colts and 66-65 for Madison. Everybody finally, all the shows and everything finally seem to finally be getting a hold of everything. Like, there's not a ton of crazy stuff anymore. I mean, you still do have stuff where like the Crossmen are fifth and percussion and whatever else, but still everybody seems to be getting a grasp of tour so far, and that also comes with experience of performing the shows and going against the same cores night in, night out. Like, we have not seen a mix-up in cores in a few days. So as the next about week, 2 weeks progress, that will start happening, though, more and more. We'll see cores from the West Coast be blending in with cores from the East Coast at one point. Now the second show last night, Western Core Connection in San Bernardino, California. This show is hosted every year by the Riverside Community College, better known as RCC, marching band program, or whatever you'd like to call it. Of course, RCC is the extremely good WGI drumline, but of course they also have a marching band in the fall. And usually the show is at RCC, but this year they had to move it to San Bernardino, I believe, stadium construction in Riverside. But that did not take away from the competitive aspects of this show. Let's take a look at open class first. You got Gold, Golden Empire, Vessel, Watchman, Impulse, Incognito. Not a ton to look for here in general effect and visual. Gold looking really good still. I'd like them to gain a few more points. They're still in the 56-57 range. I'd like them to get to 58 or 59, but we won't see them now for 2 weeks. So really, I'm sure a lot of changes and cleaning will happen to that show, though, in the meantime. Over in music, the only thing I'm going to point out here in open class is Golden Empire getting really close to gold in percussion, and that might just be something to look at down the road for Golden Empire, and then moving up the rankings in open class, because if you think of it, last year they were 11th at World Championships, open class championships, I should say, and take out Blue Devils B, take out Vanguard Cadets, that puts them 9th. I think Golden Empire is shaping their season shaping up to be a good one, and one that will get them places in years to come. Gold wins this show 57-15, Golden Empire 53-7, Vessel 51-35, Watchman 46.3, Impulse a 42.9, and Incognito with a 42.05. A good moment for Incognito there, pulling pretty close to Impulse. So on the world class side of things in San Bernardino, guess what happened? The Blue Devils win the show. Yeah. So, and that's what I'm really going to break down right now, because everything else here kind of falls into line of how it's been. Mandarins and Blue Knights really is the next closest battle. But up here, the Blue Devils and Santa Clara Vanguard, that's really what I'm going to talk about. General Effect. On Saturday in Pasadena, the Blue Devils lost General Effect by 6/10. They turned that around in San Bernardino. Blue Devils win General Effect by 3/10. Go over to visual. I'm just going to point out the captions that basically get awarded come Indianapolis. 15-7 for Vanguard and Color Guard, 15-5 for the Blue Devils. What does that mean for overall visual? 23-9 for Vanguard, 23-7 for the Blue Devils. So far, the Blue Devils are winning the show by 1/10. What happens over in music, you might ask? Here's what happens over in music. Vanguard wins brass, 15-2 to a 15-1 for the Blue Devils. 15-3 for the Blue Devils in analysis, 15 even for Vanguard in analysis. Percussion then, Vanguard up by 3/10. So add those three scores together for both of them and divide by 2, and that's how you get your overall music score. Overall music score, 22.95 for for Sinclair Vanguard, that is 22.9 even for the Blue Devils. The Blue Devils win the show by 0.5 of a point. That is an incredibly small margin. And that could be everything from Vanguard maybe had a little bit of a rough run. That could be the Blue Devils had an extremely good run. That could be one judge liked them a little bit more than others. Like, I don't know, I'm just going to use the analysis judge because it's right here. They gave them 3/10. But all of that means that if the Blue Devils, let's say, get a 15-2 in analysis and not a 15-3, they don't win the show. They would tie in that scenario. But every little tenth of a point, every little half of the tenth of a point mattered in the Blue Devils' victory in this show, and it all comes from general effect. Vanguard won everything else. All the other awarded captions, brass percussion, color guard, and they won overall music, they won overall visual, but the big thing was general effect for the Blue Devils. As I said, overall final scores. Blue Devils 78-6, Vanguard 78-5-5. Cavaliers are third at 73-9. Big thing that happened with them is the Blue Knights defeated them in percussion, 15-1 for the Blue Knights. Cavaliers at 14-9. Blue Knights are at 73-3. The Mandarins 71-9-5. They're going to have to kind of start gaining if they want to do anything. The Academy were 6th, but that 8th in percussion really hurts them. 7th was the Shroopers at a 64-9, 19.75 in music, just a 10th behind Academy there because their percussion scores are so good. Pacific Crest was 8th overall with a 63-3. I definitely expect them to pass the Troopers. They just got to clean that show, kind of. And Genesis down there in 9th with a 59.8. The world-class leaderboard, as of last night, based on most recent score, of course, is interesting. I have not had this on the show all week because of really numerous different things. Different areas where scores were performing, really scores weren't making a whole lot of sense. So now last night, everything seems to kind of be falling into line. I'm not going to talk a lot about the top because the top 6 are such a toss-up right now, I don't even know where to really begin. I'm going to talk about 9 through 16 pretty much. The Crossmen look pretty good, but their percussion score is down. The Blue Knights look pretty good, but their percussion score is up. The reason I'm saying that is because if these two had a head-to-head matchup right now, the thing that would decide that show between those two is percussion. At least I think that. Because other scores kind of line up across the board. Crossmen are kind of good in visual. They could get away, but the Crossmen's percussion score is so bad right now. And if the Crossmen could piece together percussion, they could be in the 74s right now. I mean, I don't know if anybody really looks at that, but if they could piece together just one little sub-caption, they could be contending with the Blue Stars, could be contending with the Cadets, but because they can't piece that together, they're struggling. They've got bigger issues also than just percussion. They've got some other areas where they're not as strong. That's why they're 1.6 behind the Blue Stars. But still, that is one of the smaller and one of the biggest at the same time areas where the Crossmen are struggling. The Mandarins, they're going to shoot up all of a sudden. I'm calling it right now. They're going to go from a 71 right now, and the next show they have, which is actually not until Saturday in Sacramento, or Friday actually, it's like their home show. It's just them and Pacific Crest, but still, their scores can go from like a 71 to a 75 or 76 or something. One, because they're going to have a whole lot of rehearsal time to work on things and clean stuff, but also because they've kind of been stuck right here the past few nights. I think they're going to definitely jump up in the coming few shows for them. Spirit and Fandom, that I think is the battle for finals. I think those top 11 are set. I think 12 and 13, those two are the big battle, but who knows? Maybe the Colts add something and they get up there or whatever. And the Academy's been kind of at a disadvantage as well because there's been nobody in their same area in recent shows in California. On the open class side of things, I have not been putting this on here either, but now that we've kind of got quite a few cores performing, it makes sense now. Blue Devils B is first right now. They had not performed since last weekend and do not perform until this weekend, this upcoming weekend. But let's keep in mind the cores that are going to championships. I have a separate leaderboard for those cores, but there's only like 6 cores that perform, so it's not worth talking about that right now. But let's just put some into that. Spartans 59-3, Gold 57-15. You've got Golden Empire 53-7, 7th Regiment 52-35. Raiders are there, Colt Cadets are there. River City Rhythm, they get added in tomorrow night. So really a lot of stuff to look at on here, but again, nobody's really together. I mean, look at when these next shows are. You've got cores like the Watchmen who don't have another show until July 18th. You've got other cores. Most of these West Coast cores don't compete this weekend. They compete next weekend in Bakersfield. So open class sure looks to be interesting, though, this season, I will say that. And the final leaderboard I want to talk about is the DCA leaderboard. And this is just open class, because A class we've had 1 core perform. On the open class side of things, though, the Caballeros put up a really good score this weekend. It was 1.65 better than the Buccaneers score last weekend. And yes, the Buccaneers, I'm sure, are better than the Caballeros, but it's sure something to look for. The White Sabres also put up a pretty good score, 72-4. Hurricanes are good. Fusion Core is pretty good. Bushwhackers, if when they have their next show, they're in Landisville this weekend. I'm pretty sure they're in Clifton the following weekend. They'll be against Fusion Core there, something to look for. And then the Sunrisers there, they'll probably be competing with the likes of Southern Knights or Cincinnati Tradition at the end of the season. And then Atlanta CV, how high can they climb? Can they get to the Bucks? Who knows at this point. So tonight we've got 2 shows. We've got first up the Bean Pot in Lynn, Massachusetts. Lineup and times here: 7 o'clock, Welcome and National Anthem. 7:10 is exhibition performance by the Muchachos from Manchester, New Hampshire. 7:28, the Spartans, and 7:46, 7th Regiment. Interesting thing there, can the Spartans break 60, and can 7th Regiment kind of make up some of that gap that the Spartans have built on them? Second half of the show, no Boston Crusaders at this show, just Music City Cadets and Bluecoats. That is, can the Cadets break 75? Can the Bluecoats break 80 tonight? Those are the keys to the show tonight. And then everything rounds off at this one with an exhibition by North Star, an exhibition group from Peabody, Massachusetts. And scores will be announced somewhere around 9:46. This show is at Manning Field in Lynn, Massachusetts. Weather for this one does look good. It looks better than the weather for Lawrence the other night. And I know I'm going to probably jinx it, but we've not had any weather-related anything happen at drum corps shows yet this season. It was looking a little bad for Rochester yesterday, but everything cleared out and everything happened on time. But let's hope that streak continues. Second show tonight, Drums Across the Desert in Mesa, Arizona. 7:30, Welcome National Anthem. 7:40 is an exhibition by the Arizona Youth Guard, a program from Tempe, Arizona. We've got 2 sound sport performances here, one by Arsenal from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and another from Phenom from Tempe, Arizona. They're a program of the Academy organization. Second half of the show is Troopers, Santa Clara Vanguard, Cavaliers, and Academy. I'm looking forward to where the Academy can score here. It's their first show where they're not really with other corps that are in that are like above them and below them, like by like just a few points. So I think that if we can get accurate read on the Academy, it sure makes the leaderboard a little bit more accurate. The Academy will perform an encore about 9:47, and then scores will be announced by 10:02 Pacific time. This show is at John D. Riggs Stadium at Mesa Community College in Mesa. The weather for this one is very hot. There might be some sort of decision made by DCI. Maybe we've seen them go without uniforms before, or other things, maybe push back the show a little bit, but it is very hot. If it starts on time, it's going to be in the 100s as the kids are performing. So just keep your eye out for anything from this one. Maybe they might maybe make everything exhibition or something of the sort. I hope not, but anything really is possible tonight when temperatures are that high. So thanks for watching the podcast today. Just a few things. Make sure to visit my website, drumcorpscentral.weebly.com, for all the latest updates from the DCI and DCA summer tours. Scores, schedules, leaderboards, and more can all be found on my own personal website about all things drum corps. Make sure to follow me on numerous social media platforms, Drum Corps Geek on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to the Show Day podcast on YouTube, where this podcast and more will be posted. Finally, leave your thoughts in the comments section. Questions, input, comments, etc. would all be greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day.